And welcome back to this Tuesday edition of InfoWars Nightly News. In studio with us, we have Stewart Rhodes, the founder of Oath Keepers. He's a constitutional lawyer and, of course, worked in Ron Paul's office, but now he's more widely known for the essential work he's doing with more than 30,000 members and hundreds of thousands of people that are supporters who are former military or current military or former or current police, saying one simple thing: they will not follow unlawful, unconstitutional orders. And tomorrow, he's going to be in studio for a full hour on the radio talking about solutions in the big picture. And he's also here to tape some interviews for Obama Deception 2 that's now coming out March 15th, 2014. But in the 10 minutes we have here on the Nightly News tonight, before we go to break and come back with Jakari Jackson and his interview with the state official, the land commissioner, on the armed march in San Antonio that's coming up. Before we go to break and come back with that, I wanted to get him to talk about the Second Amendment itself and why the tyrants hate it so much, and why the liberty teeth are the #1 target, not just our free speech, but our right to self-defense, are the #1 target of the kleptocrats running our society. And that's why I have their ultimate enemy, a Barrett 50 caliber rifle that's only been used in one crime since it's been available in the 1980s, but that they're trying to ban right now, not just legislatively here, but under the UN treaty as well. So I thought I would bring out this jewel of liberty for the people, the Barrett 50. Stuart, good to have you here with us, buddy.
Good to go. Glad to be here.
Well, just spend 9 minutes or so we have left tonight on the Second Amendment and why it's so important.
Well, I've talked to people who came from the Soviet Union and those who survived East Germany, like Gunter Spence, who you know from here in Texas. He was an East German lieutenant colonel. And they say over and over again, the big difference between what they went through and what we're going through right now is we still have the right to bear arms. It's a critical difference. And the founders put it there for a reason. It's meant to be the people's preservation of their own military capacity so that they are their own security, which is a safe place to put the power of the country. Their answer to the ancient question, who should guard the guardians, is that we should be our own guardians and guard ourselves. A citizen's militia, a citizen's army is the answer, not professional police, professional warriors, because every time you have a class of warriors to protect the society and everyone else is just a worker bee, what do you wind up with? You wind up with a dictatorship where the warriors figure out we might as well be running everything. That's what happens. And so they wanted us to maintain our own military capacity. And of course, anyone who designs to strip you of your rights, the first thing they want to do is disarm you so that you're not capable of taking care of yourself, you're dependent upon them, and so you're not a threat to them. And why would they feel threatened by the American people if they didn't have bad designs for us? So obviously, this makes them wet their pants because they know that this will prevent them from being able to fulfill their ultimate goals.
Switzerland is really where we got the model. That and the Dutch, they phased out their Second Amendment there, but we got the model from the Swiss and others. Switzerland has the lowest crime rate in the world, not just Europe. And I noticed they've been drilling their own citizen military for the collapse of Europe under socialism. They're preparing to repel the hordes of people during the collapse.
Right, the French.
Exactly. And so it's inevitable on this socialist trajectory of Cloward and Piven that things are going to collapse. This is what Soviet-style government does. But how will that work for them here when there are 400 million guns and people aren't going to turn them in? How is it going to work for the secret police when they try to go out, like Solzhenitsyn talked about, and take people away?
Well, two things. One is they want everyone to be afraid of organizing. That's the effect of the NSA spying on all of us. You get people who are afraid to associate with each other, afraid to even go on Facebook, and so you self-censor, so you're isolated. It's much easier then to go and grab you in the middle of the night, one guy at a time. You might have a Barrett in your closet, but if you're in your underwear in the middle of the night when you come through the door with 12 guys, you really can't use it. So they don't want you organizing. So that's one aspect of it. The other second big weakness we have is a lack of food storage. The American people are very vulnerable, so if they wanted to, they could just trigger an economic collapse and just starve you out. You know, you have plenty of guns. Most Americans have guns and ammo, but hardly any food storage. So it's a big, huge weakness.
They want to make us dependent. We've got to become independent.
Right.
And even if we're not 100%, that doesn't matter. 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%. The journey of 1,000 miles, the old Chinese proverb, starts with a single step. We need to start that process.
That's exactly right. And don't just, all the big lines around the corner at the gun shows, the same thing should be going on outside of Mormon canneries or any place that sells food storage outside of Costco. You should be thinking about logistics, not just guns and ammo, but also food, medicine, communications, fuel. All of those things are essential for maintaining your liberty and independence.
I didn't mean to go there, but since they're putting up InfoWarsStore.com, MyPatriotSupply.com, and the great folks there, that's our great sponsor, high-quality, storable food. But the issue is DHS 6 months ago came to them and said, we want to buy everything you've got, but don't tell anybody. And they said no and went public with the letter. And it turned out all the other big suppliers, they're basically, that's the reason there's now a shortage of storable food and prices going up, just like the bullets. The government's buying up all the food, the bullets, you name it.
Right. But are they doing that for the American people or just for their own units?
No, it's for themselves.
Right, exactly. So they're not preparing us. They're not preparing us to weather out an economic collapse and chaos. They're preparing their own troops. And for us, they're spending billions of dollars on ammunition. That's what's meant for us.
What did you think of the paper targets that we broke? And people didn't believe it first. And the media called the company. They went, no, DHS paid $2.1 million for these paper targets of men, women, and children to shoot, no hesitation.
Right. Well, it's conditioning. Just like video games condition you to shoot at those things, so do the targets. Same thing. It's operant conditioning.
Stuart, we got about 4 or 5 minutes left here. Other points concerning the Second Amendment, shaping the future battle space, as you say it. Where is the Republic today?
Well, we are in an inverse situation for what the founders intended. Very weak people in very weak states, and with a top-heavy, increasingly draconian government, basically transplanting East Germany into the United States. So we need to get back to the founders' idea of the citizens militia, of people who are responsible for themselves, both when it comes to their own fire protection, when it comes to their own law enforcement, a posse back up the sheriff, relying on the neighbors to go and find the bad guy. Like in Boston, it should have been the neighbors who turned out to go search house to house for the bad guy. That's who found him anyway in the end. Not having them all be treated like sheep, staying in their pens while their warriors go look for the bad guy. That's not the founders' intent. And another good point to make is that for hundreds of years in the United States, in the colonies, before we were even a country, the colonists defended themselves against the French and Indians, against the aggressors in their frontiers, through the militia. That was a model that they followed for hundreds of years. It wasn't just Switzerland. It was their own experience.
No, that was an old, exactly European model used in smaller free states.
Right. It came from England originally, but then in the colonies, that's all they had. That was the army of the colonies, was the militia, the people themselves.
And of course, then they said, with the Bill of Rights, you're not going to have a standing army because those always are used to enslave us.
Well, they allowed for Congress to have a standing army on certain occasions to produce an army, but they still relied on and preserved the militia. That was the intent.
Sure, my point is they said you cannot have a domestic, quartered among us army that's stationed here because they're always used to take over.
Right. Well, that's why in Article 1, Section 8, it says that the militia can be called forth to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. We are supposed to be the domestic security force. The army is only for external use against foreign foes, not for use internally.
Well, look at Switzerland. They don't even have an external army, and no one dare invade them.
Right.
I mean, it's simple. We have globalists that want us to be domesticated slaves. You don't let slaves know how to fight.
Right, and so they want you to feel like you're a nut, you're an extremist, if you want to have just basic infantry skills so you can fulfill your responsibility of self-defense for yourself and your families and your community. They want you to believe that's somehow wrong and dirty. So we need to say we don't care what they think. We're going to go ahead and embrace the fact that we're supposed to be, all Americans are supposed to be warriors. All Americans are supposed to be soldiers.
And notice they're going after, because the best defense is being prepared and not being a pushover. It's very simple. Do you attack the fortress or do you attack the thing that's wide open? In closing, notice they want the AR-15 because if they can ban that lightweight battle rifle that's very easily used by women, you name it, then they can go after all the others. And it shows. It's used in 2% of the crimes, federal statistics, just like Barrett's only been used in 1 crime. But they want it because they are really threatened by the American people with a military weapon.
Yeah, it's their worst nightmare, which is great. That's why everyone American should own one of these. Absolutely. This is the best one to own.
What are you going to talk about? We got about 3 minutes left. What are you going to talk about tomorrow on the radio show live?
Is our new initiative to form civilization preservation teams, which is Oath Keepers stepping forward as an example. What we want to see in all the veterans halls and all the neighborhoods is teams for first responders and mutual aid in every community. We're going to lead the way as an example, but we want to go out there and teach everyone else to do the same thing. All Americans should form into teams to take care of themselves, their families, their neighborhoods, their churches, their veterans halls, their towns and counties, from the bottom up to restore the republic.
Wow, that sounds like free, independent people. That sounds like an American idea. Pretty evil, folks. The Southern Poverty Law Center will be reporting on us. Well, we're going to go to break and end the official news and come back with Jakari Jackson's exclusive interview with the Texas Land Commissioner that is standing with the Second Amendment against the San Antonio police chief that says he will arrest anyone that open carries in San Antonio at the Alamo coming up in just about a week and a half. That's it for this edition of InfoWars Nightly News. Stay with us for the special report. Are we choosing our own destiny, or has it been pre-selected for us?
As we've moved through history, every great leader has had to understand the potential of information.
Billions of dollars have been spent privately and publicly looking at how to tap into your psyche.
From compulsory state education to the Hollywood media brainwashing machine, we are kept in perpetual bondage to the ideas that shape our actions.
When somebody obscures that feedback loop between you observing and testing it out and verifying it, they can take total control of your awareness.
All of this is happening so fast, you need to be ahead of the game.
How to engineer the opinion of the American people so that they would not only endorse but demand a war.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit.
State of Mind, because there's a war on for your mind. Get your copy of State of Mind, the movie, at Infowars.com. And remember, every order at InfoWarsStore.com receives a free citizen rulebook. And welcome back to this Tuesday edition of InfoWars Nightly News. In studio with us, we have Land Commissioner on the armed march in San Antonio that's coming up. Before we go to break and come back with that, I wanted to get him to talk about the Second Amendment itself and why the tyrants hate it so much and why the liberty teeth are the #1 target, not just our free speech, but our right to self-defense, are the #1 target of the kleptocrats running our society. And that's why I have their ultimate enemy, a Barrett 50 caliber rifle that's only been used in one crime since it's been available in the 1980s, but that they're trying to ban right now, not just legislatively here, but under the UN treaty as well. So I thought I would bring out this jewel of liberty for the people, the Barrett 50. Stewart, good to have you here with us, buddy.
Good to go. Glad to be here.
Well, just tomorrow, he's going to be in studio for a full hour on the radio talking about solutions and the big picture. And he's also here to tape some interviews for Obama Deception 2 that's now coming out March 15th, 2014. But in the 10 minutes we have here on the nightly news tonight, before we go to break and come back with Jakari Jackson and his interview with the state official, Stewart Rhodes, the founder of Oath Keepers. He's a constitutional lawyer and, of course, worked in Ron Paul's office, but now he's more widely known for the essential work he's doing with more than 30,000 members and hundreds of thousands of people that are supporters who are former military or former or current police, saying one simple thing: they will not follow unlawful, unconstitutional orders.